Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. It's the notorious, glorious V, the Gorilla Economist, coming to you live on this edition of Rogue News in the morning. Folks, a lot of changes are happening with Rogue News, so bear with me then. Hold on one second. I'm just having a little bit of reverb. Then let me just fix that. Okay, cool. Anyway, so follow me on Twitter at Real Rogue News, Rogue News on every single podcasting app known to humanity. And check out our sponsors, watchustrade.io, watchustrade.io. Look, there's already few exploits, folks. There are only few exploits that the American public has, and Watch Us Trade is one of them. Okay, taking command of your own destiny, learning how to trade, and setting your own fortune so you never have to financially struggle is huge. And you can do it over at watchustrade.io, watchustrade.io. And also check out mycbdedibles.com, mycbdedibles.com for all your delicious needs, whether you're vaping or you want some baked goodies or doggy treats. mycbdedibles.com is the place to get it done. With that all out of the way, let's jump into it real quick. I want to get you guys the formats on also some announcements. I'm no longer on the Gadfly due to scheduling issues. I just can't do it all, guys. I can't. The schedule has been absolutely brutal for me, and so I've pulled back from the Gadfly. You know, the rest of the guys are on there, the entire team. CJ is there. Jim Willie, London Paul, Ken Shorgen, they're all there. So check out the Gadfly. That's the gadfly.vhx.tv. They're still there. And folks, if you want me exclusive, look, here's the deal. I'm only going to be doing like these, 5 to 10 minute news stints here on YouTube, possibly twice a week. The majority, I'm on every single damn day on Patreon, live video, folks, not just audio, but video as well, on Patreon. So if you want to follow me over there, get over to Patreon, join. The link is in the description box. Sign up today, man. Again, I don't need 20,000 people coming over. I would love to have 1,000 of you join me. At least 1,000 of you join me over at Patreon. Let's make it happen, okay? And we're also figuring out how to live stream on DTube as well. So it's going to be pretty darn exciting. So I'm looking forward to that. Also, real quick, guys, with that out of the way, I guess we can just get into the whole news. I guess let's just get into it. The majority of the information that I'm going to share with you, okay, I'm going to be on here. We're going to touch on some topics. We're going to talk about it. The majority of the stuff is going to be on Patreon. I'm going to really flesh it out after I'm done with this broadcast. I'm just going to quickly switch over. And at 10 a.m., I'm going to absolutely go ballistic on Patreon, breaking all of this stuff down for you guys, giving you guys the insider baseball as to what's going on. The insider baseball, the news that matters, man. Okay, folks, it's the news that matters. All right. So let's get into it. Let's get into it real quick. Touching base on some of these topics. Again, I'm going to be breaking this down thoroughly on Patreon. Again, it's going to be on live video as well. Anyway, guys, look, here's the deal. The one of the things I coined, one of the things I talked about is actually Max Kaiser coined it. I've talked about it, kind of fleshed it out as well. Max follows me on Twitter, and I follow him right back. One of the things that's been said, and I love this phrase so much. It's prosperity without profits. Prosperity without profits. And we're seeing a lot of these tech companies, folks. A lot of these tech companies, the bubble is starting to burst. Okay, Amazon is on shaky ground. I don't know if you know this or not, but there's a lot of scandal that is right now erupting within Amazon that has to do with AWS, that has to do with bribes, that has to do with crony capitalism being exposed. And we all know this is not earth-shattering news. How else does Amazon, a company that hasn't made money in 15 years, all of a sudden they're doing so well? Is because of these honeypot contracts that are done with intelligence services, governmental entities, and whatnot that make this whole entity called Amazon exist. Prosperity without profits. How else do you have what's it called? Uber and Lyft. They make no money. Pinterest makes no money. And I've detailed this for you guys so many times. These companies make no money, but yet their stock valuations through the roof. It's prosperity without profits. It's the insane upside down world that we're living in. It's absolutely insane. And now, again, I'm going to break this down thoroughly on the Patreon. Link is in the description box. Did you guys see the earnings reports today? Did you see Google's earnings reports? Did you see it? It was appalling. Okay? It is appalling. I mean, everybody's taking a hit except Microsoft. Microsoft, they're playing the conservative trail. They're making some great decisions. They have a fantastic CEO at the helm in Microsoft. I really respect Satya Nadella. He's really guiding that ship from abysmal nothingness back to being a strong contender because he understands where things are going. They're cloud computing. I mean, the stuff Microsoft doing is quite phenomenal. Okay, and I'm talking about it on a consumer end. I'm not, talking about any of this deep state stuff. But anyway, Microsoft's doing great. Okay, their market cap, these stupid market caps, the dumbest thing in the world. It's like the Forbes richest list, right? The Forbes richest, the worthless. It means nothing, right? So Apple is no longer reporting exactly how many X amount of products are sold. They're not going to report how many MacBooks are sold. They're not going to report how many iPads are sold. They're barely going to report how many iPhones are sold. And that's typically a sign things ain't doing well. Okay. There's leaked images of the next iPhone 11, which just looks like a ugly I mean, you look at that sexy, swanky devices that Samsung's putting out, and you look at this ugly, horrendous iPhone 11 that's coming out. Oh my God! I mean, the cameras on the back makes the whole damn thing look atrocious. I mean, I said this before, folks. If Steve Jobs was alive, he'd come out of the grave. Actually, he would literally come out of the grave. He would, if he was alive, he'd burn down the new headquarters and choke out every single one of the executive teams. Oh my God! Anyway, the earnings reports. Okay, all right. The first quarter earning revenue miss by Google. This is huge. This is huge. Okay. And it's interesting to say the least that there's a lack of answers on the earnings call that led to frustration for investors. Okay. Jefferies analyst wrote on a note, one concern is whether other online businesses are taking the advertising share away from Google, given that the paid clicks on Google ads rose at the slowest since 2016. Alphabet shares are down 7.8% in pre-market trading on Tuesday. The stock had climbed 24% this year and closed on Monday at an all-time high before tumbling. Courtesy of Bloomberg, here's what the analysts are saying about Alphabet's results. The first quarter results raise more questions than answers, with continued lack of transparency, troubling to investors, while the valuation is under demanding. Alphabet needs to rebound in the second quarter to show the first quarter was not a trend. Otherwise, investors will be resigned to view Alphabet as a lower growth story, potentially losing share, though Jefferies does not believe this is the case. Morgan Stanley says this, okay, about Google. First quarter website deceleration and uncertain forward trajectory highlight the need for better transparency. This will likely remain key to long-term valuation. Unclear what changes Alphabet made in the quarter that drove the deceleration in growth, and this is something that the street must figure out. Citi, KeyBank, Baird Capital, all of them are sitting there shocked about the miss that is Google, that is Alphabet. Folks, in the Patreon, I'm going to get into the broadcast at 10 a.m. today. I'm going to get into exactly why. Why Wall Street? Why these tech companies in the realm of prosperity without profits, in the world of prosperity without profits? Why a bloody valuation? Why a quarters miss? Why perception is so vital, and why tech companies like Alphabet, aka Scroogle, get their panties in a bunch when there's a negative quarter, and all of a sudden, quote unquote, investor sentiment is bad. I'm going to detail for you exactly what that means. And I'm going to show you exactly, folks, why they go crazy. Why is that? I mean, think about it. It's not that, hey, do we have innovative products? Do we have something to sell? It's about, what does the investors think? Ooh, what's our stock? What's our market cap? What's our valuation saying? What's this saying? What's that saying? So we're going to get into that later today at 10 o'clock. Over at the Patreon. I'm sorry to be hammering this to you guys, but you need to follow me over there. Make the jump, less than 23 cents a day. Hop over. Come on. Next thing that I'm going to be touching base upon, folks, and it ties in perfectly. It ties in perfectly with what I'm talking about with the misses the absolute misses that are happening with big tech, okay, with the tech darlings and what's happening in the stock market all around the world, and de-dollarization, which I talked about yesterday. I talked about it yesterday on Patreon. I talked about bank insolvency. I'm talking about the liquidity crunch and the liquidity crisis that I've been documenting since 2012 that's been happening, and it's getting substantially worse. And how this bit of news is going to tie in with the Fed that is possibly going to cut the interest rate by 50 basis points. It's going to happen. All of a sudden, there's going to be a cut. What does that mean? What does that mean? That is very well could be a reality here. Okay? And I'm going to detail that later as well. But here's the thing. Gold's coming home. If you've been following me for quite some time, you've been following Jim Willie, you would know that gold has been flying off the shelf. Same thing with London Paul. European Central Bank President Mario Draghi recently announced that the ECB would be required to approve any management of gold reserves with Eurozone countries. The statement was specifically directed at the two Italian members. Why was Italy singled out? According to the Wall Street Journal, Italian citizens are preparing to take control of Italy's gold reserves. During the past few years, a multitude of small investors lost billions of dollars due to the failure of several Italian banks. The Bank of Italy is seen as elitist, inefficient entity, indifferent to the needs of the ordinary people. Deputy Prime Minister Luigi Di Maio is leading the attack against Italy's central bank, along with the Five Star Movement and the Nationalist League, all of whom blame the country's financial woes and incompetence of the central bank. The Five Star Movement is asking Italy's parliament to approve measures that would allow private banks to sell their share of the Bank of Italy in the 1930s prices. Taking it a step further, they are also demanding that the ownership of the Bank of Italy's 2,451 tons of gold be taken over by the country's citizens and spent on populist policies. The current valuation of this gold reserve is about $102 billion. If these laws are passed, investors will be able to sell gold and greatly deplete the central bank's reserves. As Giorgia Meloni of the Brothers of Italy states, the gold belongs to the Italians, not the bankers. Italy's lawmakers hold a different view and are warning against any action that will upend the sovereignty of the central bank's policies. It's so stupid. The central bank is sovereign. Such expropriation of gold, of government gold, will not be tolerated. But the Five Star Movement and the League are determined to return ownership of the country's gold to the public. Approximately 60% of lawmakers support the move, guaranteeing the law will be enacted. There's also rumbling about nationalizing the Central Bank of Italy entirely. And folks, these rumblings are happening all throughout Europe. They're happening all throughout the world. Italy is a very specific case. And if you notice about it, folks, what's really happening? What's happening on the surface? I'm going to detail it for you guys in the Patreon. We're going to be talking about exactly why this is really a rush, okay? We are heading towards a collapse of the current system. And it's not going to happen this week. It's not happening tomorrow. It's not happening next week. I say we have 4 or 5 years before the situation runs its course. And what is happening right now, in a situation like this, you know what the elites are doing? They are making their phony, baloney, jabroni profits on Wall Street with the financial markets, the phantom prosperity, and they're taking the phantom prosperity and actually buying real, tangible assets and wealth like gold. Okay, they're doing that. Okay, why? Because in a situation that we are in the world, your biggest competitor, folks, your biggest competitor is the government. Because right now it is the race to acquire hard assets, and it has been, if you've been paying attention, since 2008. It has been a race to acquire hard assets. It is a race to leverage the bubble and buy the actual tangible. Leverage the bubble, buy the tangible. Leverage the bubble, buy the tangible. Leverage the bubble, buy the tangible. It's a race. So you are competing against the government, and it's a race for everything plus the kitchen sink. Okay. And you're going to see this trend continue. We're going to get into it as to the reasons why and where we are going as the fictitious unipolar world with its phony baloney markets and its phantom economy and its phantom wealth and the prosperity without profits runs its course and comes to a bitter end. We're going to get into that as well. Folks, also, Venezuela, do not forget. Look, there's a great article I wrote on Patreon, which I got to finish up the second part of it, which is called The Cartel of the Suns, and why the deep state is in Venezuela, why there is a coup ongoing right now in Venezuela, Okay, there's an active coup that is happening. Elliot Abrams and his ilk are running rampant, folks, running rampant there. And it's not what some people think. Some people think, well, it's about the oil. No, folks. If you go back a couple of videos before, I said I did a video on here on YouTube called "In God We Trust: Gold, Oil, and Drugs." Gold, oil, and drugs. In God we trust. Gold, oil, and drugs. That's here on YouTube, so go back and listen to it. You get an idea what's happening. I'm going to give you the play-by-play of what's happening in Venezuela. So these are the key takeaways, folks. These are the key takeaways for today. Number one, what is happening with Google? Why is that earnings report? Why is that a panic in the marketplace? And what they're going to do to ratchet up? Because if you think this is going to somehow, it's a downturn in the stock market, no. Next quarter, Google's going to do worse than what it did in the first quarter. It's not going to do. It's going to be at the same, if not even worse, because they're on a downward trend. Okay, but this is not going to stop the market from going to down 29,000. It's not going to stop. And we're going to talk about the rudiments and in the gaslighting of the market to take it to the next level and how that's going to happen and how you could leverage that. So check that out over at the Patreon. This ties in very closely with gold. This ties in with Venezuela. All of this is connected. We'll be discussing this soon over at the Patreon. So check me out. And folks, those are the key takeaways. Those are the major news. So again, thank you all for listening in. Follow me over on Patreon. Later in the week, we're going to have Harley Schlanger here. He's going to be breaking things down on Rogue, and we're going to do a couple of market shows here as well. Come May 1st, which is tomorrow, or this coming week, we're going to have a whole new schedule out for YouTube, for myself and all the other creators that are going to be on the RogueNews YouTube channel. So keep on alert for that. But if you want the gorilla, you want the ape, you want the economic ape, you can find me in one place. It's on the Patreon. Click the link, join me. I want all of you to come over and join me. This is V the Gorilla, over and out.